Welcome to another episode of Data Journeys. In today's edition, I have the pleasure of talking to Patrick Moorhead. If you don't know Patrick, I'd be really surprised because he's everywhere. He's a very well-known analyst looking across the industry in cloud, data, AI, and analytics. He has his own research firm, More Insights and Strategy, talks to lots and lots of enterprise clients, travels 40 weeks out of the year, thousands of clients' conversations. So I'm really excited to get his take on the latest trends that are going on in our industry. Pat, thank you so much for spending time with us today. Let's get right into it. Tell us more about you.
Yeah, Bruno, thanks so much for having me on here. Data analytics, AI, it's just breakthrough and it's exciting. So I've been in the industry for 30 years, and I'm blessed to have one of the top ranked analyst firms in all of the world. Even though we're small, we make a pretty big impact. And in 30 years of experience, I had 20 years in infrastructure, and 11 of those, I was an executive managing very large teams, big budgets, and it was really great at a very young age to run a multi-billion-dollar business. I was involved in many digital transformation efforts too at these companies, ERP transformations, the first day of web and e-commerce, manufacturing, sales, and marketing systems. In the last 12 years, I've been running my analyst firm. And like you said, we advise enterprises, tech companies, what they should do related to technology. And we received the top tech analyst firms award. And right now I'm ranked the most influential analyst on the planet by AR Insights. I'm on the road 40 weeks a year, visiting clients, attending tech shows. But I have really a luxury of being outside of companies to bring kind of the eyes and the ears, and I try to connect that with the experience of having done it before. And people say they appreciate it.
Well, it looks like they do. That's pretty large amount of spending time with the outside, and we want to tap into that knowledge. It's great that you also were a practitioner, so you've got a different perspective. Yes. What do you see are the buying trends right now? What's rising to the top?
So first off, I'll say that doing more with data is a strategic imperative for the C-suite and the board of directors. They get it, right? They understand that better leveraging data can reap huge benefits, increase revenue, decrease costs, happier customer, happier employees, more flexible business models. And that means they're putting an incredible amount of pressure on business units, digital transformation executives, IT, data experts to make it happen. But here's the rub, right? Skill sets, time, regulatory mandates, and of course, they have cost pressures. Many are looking to the largest CSPs, Google being one of them, to make that happen, even when most of their data is currently not in the cloud. It's mostly on premises. But I believe, and CSPs can provide a benefit time to market, end-to-end data, consistent management data platform, all the way from data stream to data flow, data engineering, data warehouse, operational warehouse, machine learning, and AI. So having a consistent place for data security, governance, lineage, management, and automation. And while I wouldn't say there's always cost savings moving data to the public cloud, many enterprises that I've talked with who have moved it up there in the data pipeline to the cloud are seeing cost reductions versus their prior way of managing their data. Pay-per-use is huge, right? And when it's centralized and it's connected, there's also a good ability to see what is being spent by whom and who's using it.
So I want to talk about that because I think you hit on the topic here: cost, financial governance, the ability to innovate. You have a little bit of a controversial take on costs are going down. Of course, Google Cloud, we introduced some new innovations around auto-scaling, editions, compressed storage. So what are you seeing customers taking to it and how they're adopting it?
Yeah, so first off, they want everything that's tailored to what they do. And they want to be able to customize. And I think a good example, and I'll use with what you did with BigQuery editions. And I wrote an analysis on it, but essentially segmenting into different editions means that it's, first of all, it's mature and it's a nod to its success. And anytime you see a company do segmentation, it means that people want more, but they want it more customized. And it's funny, this is true in cars, soft drinks, and cloud services, okay? And they should appreciate that offering 3 different versions can meet different demands out there. And I'm sure, the success being going up the right, we'll see even more ways to customize. I really like auto scaling, right? Because you only basically use what you need in the way that you need it. You're not paying something that's sitting there and you don't need it. And that's, again, where you can save a lot of the money. I also appreciated, and I know your customers appreciated, the data compression, right? 30:1, and that is a cost savings too. It's more data in a smaller space, and in the end, it just comes back to how your users and my clients can spend more time and focus on the business, right? As opposed to worrying about and running everything on their own.
And so you've touched on it here, this idea of simplification, customization, and predictability, I think is huge, particularly as customers are innovating, investing more in the cloud, but want to make sure they get the best price performance. There is something else you mentioned here, the intelligence of artificial intelligence to make the infrastructure work better. But of course, we can't not talk about that without talking about generative AI. And so you talk to a lot of organizations, I'm sure, that are looking at their journey. Where do you see the market today as we speak here through the evolution of 2023?
So I run the business, and I'm kind of like Pete Rose. I'm a player coach. I actually prefer being the analyst versus running the business, but I'm spending 90% of my time on generative AI. And there's a lot of news and hype that has sent these data conversations through the roof. And by hype, I don't mean fad. I mean, this is a trend. This is real, right? And all of this activity reminds me of the early days of corporate email, the web, e-commerce, and the beginning of the public cloud. Companies see this as an inflection point to drive revenue, decrease costs, get into new businesses, defend against disruption, and maybe disrupt other competitors. And as we've seen with all of these inflection points, enterprises want a practical way to get started, right? They want to know what other companies like them. I mean, a few people like to be first, right? The born in the cloud folks. But for everybody else, it's what are other people doing? How did they approach it? How can they take existing processes and in some cases completely transform historical approaches? So my customers, they need partners, okay? They need GSIs, they need channel partners, technology vendors with the experience who can help guide them. And interestingly, about every week I talk with enterprise, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on your podcast, but literally they're using your data analytics and AI services, right? They started off with a definitive business problem, right? That, by the way, is almost always a data problem, okay? Let me give you an example, right? One of the largest engineering project management construction companies, they needed to speed up and find a way to better design and operate factories and warehouses from anywhere in the world with any method, okay? They wanted to reduce their cost and improve asset utilization. And they used, right, your technology to make that happen. I can't give all the details on it, but it was pretty exciting. Again, not just saying this because I'm your show, but listen, Google was the original big cloud data services company. In a former life, I was one of your biggest suppliers to your hyperscaler data centers 20 years ago, okay? You guys operate at planet scale, and I'm just using data here. You have the largest data estate on the planet. You were doing AI before it was cool, wrote the first foundational research papers for generative AI, and net, I think there's a lot of opportunity for Google Cloud customers to do more with you in data analytics and AI. And I just want to caveat, right? I research all your competitors, and I'm saying this with a very high degree of confidence.
Well, thanks for saying that first, but it's true, and we should say this, that these new innovations we brought to customers are based on their feedback. So we have,
Yes.
I would say, the advantage of having so many customers across the world where we can kind of detect the patterns and design products based on these patterns. Now, in this show, we always like to do best practices and worst practices. And so I know you see a lot of customers, you see a lot of customers with amazing success. And so let's start with the best practices. What are the 2, 3, or 5 things that everyone listening to us here needs to go out and do tomorrow?
So first of all, make sure you're aligning with the highest level strategies in your company. Okay. If your company wants to move from making widgets to widgets as a service, lean into that, solve that problem. Now, maybe out of the other side of my mouth, I'm going to say, solve a bite-sized problem, show success, increase your credibility before you change the entire data estate. Third, be wary of what vendors call best of breed. This is great to find what you might consider best of breed solution, but you have to integrate that with 20 other pieces inside of your data estate and your AI estate. It takes time, it's expensive, it's prone to mistakes. You open yourself up to security issues out there. And in the data space, governing all that data is very, very important. So think strategically, comprehensive when you think data. Fourth, adopt a platform that you can measure who's actually using what BU is using to use it what. And therefore, you can optimize what kind of data services you want. Pay in bulk, pay only per use, use auto scaling, go with the highest performance at the highest price to get the best performance. But the only way you're going to know is to know who's using it and what they're using it for. Don't peanut butter spread. You can't do this alone. Align with partners who've done it in your vertical, solving the data problems that you're experiencing, and one that has a roadmap. Okay, it's one thing to come out and be great or be formally great, but a roadmap that you can trust. And finally, don't align yourself with a vendor who you can't see yourself getting out of someday. I know that sounds crazy, okay, but that's somebody that's not going to lock you in. By the way, over 30 years, my view of lock-in has matured, right? You always lock into something, a hardware platform, an API, a data schema. You just have to know what you're locking into and have a way that blow the bolts that if 10 years from now, if that vendor doesn't operate in your best interest, you can get out. I mean, one good part about history is I can see a lot of enterprises that got in and make a big bet and they can't get out, or it's really hard to get out.
And the world has changed a lot. I think the data world has become about the ecosystem, and the openness is how you can, innovate a lot faster. You made this point on governance, which is huge requirements for organizations where they don't set up their governance framework early enough, and they unfortunately have to go back, and it's more costly and sometimes even more dangerous for their data estate. Let's talk about the opposite. We've talked about the good stuff. Now I want to hear, what are the common mistakes that we're learning?
Yeah, so this is a bit of an antithesis of what I shared above, but falling in love with a technology you can't trace back to a business benefit listen, I love technology. We all love technology, but without having a line to actually what it's solving is not good. You're going to wind up losing credibility inside of the enterprise. Try not to take everything on all at once immediately, right? It's doomed to fail. Now, I am saying, hey, it's important to have a holistic end-to-end solution, okay, that can take you all the way from data ingest all the way to AI inference. But you don't have to take the entire company there at once, okay? That's just not realistic, and it's probably not going to end well. Try not to get too enamored with best of breeds. That's a point product that requires, the next decade of integration among tools. Next one, not invented here. Okay, there's some companies that can do everything themselves. Well, not really. Okay, but they do a lot more than they probably should be. Even the largest enterprises with the largest data estates need help. Get help. And finally, don't give all the keys to one vendor for everything. And that's kind of outside. I do buy into, I think there's specialty people who do things amazing, but spreading the wealth and a little bit of the risk and keeping vendors hungry, I found is the right way to go.
This is great advice. And I know there's a much longer list here that you could help people with. Where can they find you? Where should they follow you?
I appreciate that. So company website, mooreinsightsandstrategy.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter. I have 40,000 followers. You should be able to find me. We have a YouTube channel. We've had 23 million views in 4 years. And I'm also on Forbes.com, where I've had 30 million reads since 2019. Do a Google search.
That's where I was going to go. Is that's really easy. Just Google your name. But there are many ways to find you. So I hope this was useful to everyone here. If you want to hear stories just like this, make sure you click on the link down below and subscribe to the playlist. Until next time, I'm Bruno Aziza.